right, today we're going to talk motivation, commitment, and core values. So we did talk a little bit about core values on Tuesday. But we're kind of building on that today, okay? Kind of figuring out how to actually use it, okay? So to begin with, what we're going to talk about today is why you play and train, kind of the why behind everything that you do, how you spend your time. It's going to be important for you to understand the difference between motivation and commitment. Initially, does anybody have any ideas about what the difference between those two are? No? Anything?
Motivation is like, it's kind of like temporary.
Okay.
And then like commitment is like long-term thing.
Yeah.
You gotta commit to.
Yes, exactly. Very good. That's a perfect way to explain it. We'll go more in detail later, but motivation is basically an emotion. All right, it's something that's fleeting. You can't rely on it, right? But commitment, discipline, that's more of a value. That's more of who you are, how you are, okay? And then finally, building daily actions around your purpose, okay? If you want to stay disciplined and stay focused and stay committed, you need to make sure that the things that you're doing on a daily basis have something worthwhile behind them, okay, in order to stay locked in, okay? So to start off, I'm going to talk a little bit about sticking to a plan, all right? How many people in here have had the luxury or the privilege of being able to play playoff baseball, right? Raise your hand, right? What about like tournaments, right? Like a championship game in a tournament, yeah? Yeah? So one thing, I don't know how your guys' experience has been, but for whatever reason, I've noticed, not necessarily in the teams that I've coached with, but the teams that I've played on, for whatever reason, coaches had a tendency to change their mind and change their game plan all of a sudden when the game matters a little bit more. It always threw me off. Like I remember in high school, we had a really good shortstop who'd been like a priority closer for us the entire year. Third baseman, shortstop. My senior year, we were getting ready to go. I played at Olathe East, for those of you that don't know. Hey, it's all right. It's all right. But going into playoffs, right, we were the number one seed at the time, number one team in the state, and all of a sudden we were going into regionals. All we had to do was win 2 games, we'd make it to state, okay? And for whatever reason, our head coach decided to start this shortstop who'd been our closer, right? He's not really a pitcher, he just threw hard, right? But he was like, let's start him, right? Like use him as an opener. The issue is this kid had never pitched. Like he'd never really pitched, so he didn't really know what he was doing, and he didn't necessarily feel confident in it. Also, the team that he was committed to, that coach told him, hey, I'm coming to watch you play that day. He's like, oh my goodness, I'm going to this school to play infield, and he's going to watch me pitch, and I have to perform and all this. And sure enough, he struggles, and we end up losing game 1. Embarrassing, right? But the thing is, we had a plan that got us to that situation, and then all of a sudden we changed it right at the last second, right? But with that, you see that that same concept all the time after somebody has one bad game, right? A pitcher has a bad outing. They start, rethinking everything they've done. They're like, maybe I need a new pitch, right? Maybe I should change my mechanics. Maybe I should adjust my windup. Maybe I should do something like that. Or a hitter has one bad game. They start adjusting where they're holding their hands immediately, right? To me, what that shows me is that they never necessarily believed in whatever got them there in the first place. Right? They didn't believe that their plan had been done and planned with purpose, right? They don't necessarily have a whole bunch of goal, or they have a lack of trust in whatever had gotten them there in the first place, okay? And so we don't necessarily want that. We want you to have a high amount of trust and belief in the steps that you've taken to get wherever you're going, all right? But with that, it's not that you should just refuse to adapt. Like if you're struggling, that you shouldn't change anything, right? But at a certain point, if the things that you do on a daily basis have good reasoning behind them, you should probably stick to them, right? They've gotten you this far. You should probably see how much further they can get you, okay? Opposed to just immediately abandoning them as soon as, you see adversity, okay? But at the end of the day, when you execute a plan with a purpose, like we do here, right? Anything that you guys do when you walk through our doors, you say, hey, why are you having me do this? Me, Thomas, Jake, somebody's going to have a reason. Somebody's going to have an actual definite thing that you can have purpose, right, behind every aspect of everything that we ask you to do here. Does that make sense? But we want you to be able to expand that into everything, even the stuff that you do outside these walls, okay? The nice thing about that too is when motivation wanes, right, when all of a sudden you no longer feel motivated, you know that your plan is good and worth sticking to, right? You're not going to run into a one bad game situation or, oh no, it's the playoffs, let me change everything and try to adjust, right? You know your plan has gotten you there. You've done your plan with purpose, right? Your plan has intelligently been designed and you can stick to it, okay? That way when you struggle or fail, it allows you to double down on your core principles, right? And kind of, adjust back to your training with confidence, the things that kind of helped you get there in the first place, okay? So some key concepts that we're going to talk about today is your purpose basically helps create your direction, all right? You have to have an understanding of why do you show up? Why do you play baseball? Why do you come train? Why do you do all these kind of things? That's going to help inform where you want to go, all right? You have to do things on purpose, with purpose, right? We talked about that a little bit last week or on Tuesday. And that way you have a plan that you believe in and you're willing to stick to it, okay? Know that it sets you on the direction that you want to go, and that way it attacks those doubts before they arise. When you do have a bad game, you can just chalk it up as a bad game. It's not, oh no, I have to change everything that I'm doing and I'm misprepared and I didn't do a good job, yada, yada, yada. No. You know that everything you've done all offseason and everything you've done in preparation for that outing has been done with purpose and done with a plan. So you just double down back on it and say, hey, I doubt it's not going to happen twice in a row, right? And then all of a sudden you can buy in, okay? With that, moving on to motivation. Like Brandon talked about earlier, it's an emotion, right? Motivation is an emotion. It is fleeting. You cannot rely on it to get you to want to do the things you're supposed to do, okay? You have to not rely on motivation. You can't wake up every day and think, oh my goodness, as soon as after school today, I am so pumped to come to Adapt, right? Or after school today in the spring, I'm so pumped to go to practice for another 2.5 hours after I'm done with school, right? The motivation isn't always going to be there, so don't rely on it, okay? When it is there, good, right? Take advantage of it, but don't, expect it to be there in order for you to do what you're supposed to do, okay? Good purpose and direction is vital to maintain when things get boring, right? Or when you lose excitement or things get repetitive. A lot of baseball is repetition-based. It can get boring, right? You're just playing catch, right? You're just trying to hit them in the chest 100 times a day. You're like, oh, this is brutal, right? You can't expect motivation to help get you there and help you want to do it, okay? But as you've seen, the best in the world, they stick to their plan better than others, all right? They double down on what makes them good, what makes them successful, right? Opposed to kind of wishy and washy any direction depending on the given day. All right? Commitment, as we talked about earlier, it comes from discipline. All right? It's a form of discipline. When your motivation wanes, are you going to stay committed to what you said you wanted to do? Okay? When things get hard, that commitment is going to help keep you going. That discipline comes from the commitment to your process and belief in what you're doing, okay? And then core values, we talked about this on Tuesday, but now I want to think a little bit about how we're going to apply that. We did the baseball eulogy for those of you that were there. Talked about what 3 things do you want to be known for, right? As a baseball player, what 3 things do you want to be remembered for? More as a teammate, right? But at the end of the day, if we don't apply those things, they're worthless, right? It's cool to say, right? But how do we actually use it? Your core values are how you live and what you do when things get hard, all right? When things get difficult. When the season is on the line, right? Your coach, maybe has a hard, like he is being hard on you. Double down on your core values. Who do you want to be? How do you want to be? Okay? You have to fall back on those core values when things get difficult, okay? It's up to you to be who you want to be, not just what you feel like doing on any given day. All right? It's not the fact that, okay, hey, I'm a guy who's always motivated and always fired up, right? Anybody that you've met that is that way, they probably don't feel like it, right? But they've decided that is who I'm going to be. I'm going to be that teammate with energy. I'm going to be the guy who does X, Y, Z consistently on a regular basis. They've made a decision. They've made a choice, okay? So stick to your core values when things get tough. All right. So for the discussion today, this is going to be more of a call and response, okay? Or it can be something where you just kind of think about it on your own, okay? So first of all, I want you to think about, why do you train? And if you want to share out loud, feel free. You don't have to. Why do you train? Go for it. You want to get better. That's a great reason. There you go. Anybody else have a different reason that they train?
Want to make it to the next level.
There you go. What else? Anybody have any other reasons they want to share? Yeah. Stay healthy. That's a great one. Yeah, love that. Very good. So even if you didn't answer out loud, make sure you think about, why do you train? Now, a little bit different. Why do you compete? It's fun, right? Yeah. Winning is a great feeling, right? You compete because you want the possibility, the chance of winning, right? Anybody else have a different reason? You like the sport. Okay, like just the strategy of it all, or hanging around the guys, or just the whole thing? The whole thing. Yeah, fair enough. I love baseball too. It's my favorite sport. Still is. Makes sense. I do it for a living. All right. What else? Anybody have any other reasons? There's something special about just lining up against the other team and seeing who's better. Right? That competitive, just the feeling of competition is a great feeling to go after. Okay. When motivation drops, what keeps you showing up? Does anybody have a good answer to this? Goals. Okay. So you kind of zoom out, look more towards your end goal. Right. What else?
Like what you've done, like you've seen what it's done before, like that good thing. So like you're just not motivated, you keep showing up. You know where it'll get you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. 100%. You see how far you've come. Go ahead. Okay. Yeah. I like that. So you get kind of, other people lead by example. You see they kept showing up on days where they probably didn't feel like it, and see where they are now. That's good. That's good. So this is more of a question about ADAPT as a whole. Okay. What values should define our identity as a training facility? Right? When you think about what's important to what we do here, what's important to the reason you guys want to walk through the store, what is important, what values should define our identity as ADAPT? You guys have any ideas? Go for it. Consistency. That's a great one. Henry? Purpose. Love that. Anybody else have any ideas of like why they like being here? Why they like walking through the door? Community. That's a great one, right? A bunch of dudes just sitting around listening to me talk. That's pretty cool.
It's like well-structured.
Well-structured, yeah. Yeah. Helps you know that you're doing what you're supposed to, right? All those things are good. Great. So think about your team. So think about either your club team or your high school team. Let's think about our high school team because it's coming up a little bit closer. What values should define your team's identity? Your individual high school team. Anybody want to share? Resilient. Okay. I love that one. That's a great word. Hardworking. Very good, Connor. You're winning today. That's great. We'll move on. What values should define your personal identity? So you as an individual, you as an athlete. Anybody want to share? Consistent, right? The guy who shows up day in, day out. You want your coach to be able to know what they're going to get, right? Hardworking, very good. Responsibility, very good. You got to be responsible. You got to be somebody with integrity, right? Your coach has to be able to rely on you. Anybody else have anything? No? So moving on, we're going to kind of define our why. So when it comes to motivation and commitment and your core values, you kind of have to take a little bit of time to develop them, all right? So what we're going to begin with is we're going to start with our what and our why, all right? This is going to be like a goal-setting process, all right? When you guys are working towards a goal, you guys have to have a good routine of how to work through that, how to prescribe that, how to adjust, okay? So to begin with, I want you to choose your goal. Be specific, all right? You don't have to blurt these out loud. If you want to get your phone out, write these down, feel free, okay? So by specific, what I mean is think about something that you can accomplish in the next 4 to 12 months, All right, 4 months to a year. Be specific. Numbers when possible. Define it. It's not something arbitrary, not something that you can't measure. Ideally, if it matters, you should measure it. Okay? Make it as specific as possible. Okay, and it has to be controllable. It can't be something saying, hey, I want to win X amount of games. Right? Unless you're Ohtani, you can't win games on your own. Does that make sense? Okay? For example, I want to gain 10 pounds in the next 10 weeks. That's controllable, right? That's specific. I want to put on 3 miles an hour before tryouts. That's controllable. That's specific, right? It gives you a time, okay? I want to have 70% plus first pitch strike percentage this spring. That's measurable. Does that make sense? It's controllable for the most part, right? Now I want you to think about whatever goal you decided for yourself. I want you to think about, why do you want that goal? And I want you to not be afraid of getting to the real, true motivators. Okay, why do you want to accomplish something within this sport of baseball? Okay? And get deep into what actually motivates you. All right? Do you want your family to be proud of you? Right? Do you want your teammates, your friends to know they can rely on you? Do you want to do it for them? Do you want to do it for an opportunity? Right? Be able to accomplish something for an opportunity to go to college or to play in college, something that you thought you may not have the opportunity to do. But whatever your why is, it has to be important to you individually. Can't be something where, oh yeah, hey, I'm doing this because my dad wants me to. Or I'm doing this because I've just kind of always done it. Right? It has to be important to you. And don't be afraid of getting specific. Don't be afraid to admit your true motivations, because I guarantee you when things get tough, those are the things that are going to help you overcome. Right? I knew for a fact when I was playing college baseball that the only reason why I wanted to be there, right, was because I wanted to be standing here today, right? Not because I necessarily even liked playing that much. It really stressed me out a lot of the time, right? But I loved my teammates. I loved doing it for them. And I knew that I wanted to be able to give back to people in your chairs right now. And I knew that if I played college baseball and I had those experiences, I'd be able to provide a better perspective. It wasn't about me. I didn't necessarily care how good I did. I was pumped that I did better than I ever thought I could, but that wasn't the goal. I knew for a fact that I wanted to be here talking to you guys today. Does that make sense? So when things got tough and we were doing conditioning, and I'm like, man, I don't even like playing baseball that much, right? And I'm throwing up because we're running so much. Why is this worth it? I remembered, hey, I want to coach baseball. Right? I want to be able to give back to the sport that has given so much to me. Right? That helped me get through. Right? I wanted to do it for the guys on the left and the right of me. I wanted to be able to motivate them. Even if I was struggling, I wanted to push them forward. Right? And that stuff pushed me and helped me, right, when things got tough. What are the benefits? So try to think about like 3 to 5 tangible benefits of achieving whatever goal you've chosen. Like think fast forward 4 to 12 months when you've accomplished that goal. How's it going to feel different? Right? What's going to be better? Right? What's going to help you? What's it going to look like? What's it going to feel like? What's it going to be like once you've achieved that goal? Think about what are the costs of you achieving that goal. Right? Say if it's a diet-oriented thing, maybe you no longer get to eat for fun. You have to eat what you have to eat to accomplish your goal, to gain weight, right? Maybe you're going to get yelled at every time you come in here to make sure you bring a snack and you're eating enough food. But then all of a sudden you're like, okay, hey, I'm starting to gain weight. This is cool, right? Maybe you have to sacrifice your social life, right, for a long-term goal. Okay? Maybe you can't spend as much time hanging out with your buds because you have something to do the next day. You have a game to go to. You got to make sure that you're in a good shape and you're well-rested for your practice, right? Or for your training session or what have you. Or, hey, I got a bullpen tomorrow. Can't stay up super late playing video games today, right? There's going to be sacrifices in order for you to accomplish your goal, okay? Do those benefits outweigh the costs? This is a serious conversation that you have to have with yourself. in your opinion, listing these costs, are the benefits worth it? Okay? You know, through the 4 to 5 years that I was coaching college ball, we had several players quit, like especially early on in springs or in falls. They basically realized, hey, I think I just was agreeing to play college baseball because I've always played baseball and because I was kind of good at it, not because I really liked it. And they found out really early on that, the cost didn't, the benefits did not outweigh the costs. And they committed to go to a school that they didn't necessarily like and do something that they didn't really love, and they sacrificed everything else in order to do it, right? So even more specific than that, the majority of you guys, the fact that you guys are here, you probably do really like baseball and you do really want to do it, otherwise you wouldn't be here, right? But when you're looking at a goal, looking about taking that next step, right, make sure that you have these conversations with yourself and get real. Don't just do it because it's comfortable and you've always done it, right? Do it because it matters. Because it matters something to you, okay? Is it worth it? Yes, no, maybe, right? That's something you have to find out for yourself, okay? Then taking all these together, I want you to kind of develop a personal mission statement. I'll walk you through that on the next slide. So here's a general idea of what it could look like, okay? I am becoming whatever your goal is in the next 4 to 12 months because of the benefits, and I know the cost of making these changes are XYZ, which I accept because I'm on a mission to become the strongest, healthiest, most successful, most athletic, right, version of myself. So whenever you're putting a goal in front of yourself, follow this path, right? Follow this goal-setting structure that I outlined, and write it down. Make it real. Make it serious. Okay? So moving on. Here's another way that you can apply some of the concepts of motivation and commitment that we're talking about today. I want you to think about one specific daily action you can commit to doing daily for the rest of the no-throw. All right? So we're on day 4 of the no-throw. Right? We basically, mid-December, pick throwing back up. But for the next 5.5 weeks, what's something that you can do on a daily basis you can commit to, that you can practice that skill of commitment? And I want to encourage you to take out your phones if you have them. If you don't have them right now, don't worry about it. And I want you to write it down and send it to a parent, to a coach, to a buddy. Okay? And actually say, this is something, I want you to hold me accountable. This is a thing that I want to do for the next 6 weeks, for the next 5.5 weeks. Right? This is your version of signing a contract with your accountability partner. If any of you can't think of somebody to send it to, think about somebody in here, right, that you can send it to, or you can send it to me. And unless you send it to me and I'm able to hold you accountable, I'm not going to know whether or not you do this or not. Okay? I'm not going to know whether or not you stayed committed to the thing you said you were going to commit to. Right? But it's going to be a challenge for you, knowing that you committed to doing this thing and whether or not you followed it through. You're getting a chance to practice this commitment that's going to be so valuable the rest of your career when motivation wanes. Okay? One thing I do want to share about this is HabitShare. Okay, this is an app that I've used before several times in mid-performance settings like this. And basically what it is it's a app version of that same thing we were just talking about, right? Of you actually writing something down and sending it to a friend or sending it to a coach. You basically can invite a bunch of your buddies on here, say, these are my habits, and they can see whether or not you do them on a daily basis. This app is super cool. So I encourage you, whether it with your friends or with your teammates or whatever, if you want to hold each other accountable to whatever you think is the goals that are going to make you better, use your HabitShare. You can pick and choose which ones, which ones people can see. Some may just be for you. Other ones you want people holding you accountable for. Okay, but I highly recommend that. It works out really well. But this is a goal. This is a chance for you to practice your commitment. Right? In this moment, you're probably going to feel pretty motivated. okay? But over the next 5.5 weeks, you're going to have to dive into that discipline and accountability to help keep you committed, all right? So here's a good practice for this. Now, a little bit of real-life application. Like I'll say almost every single session is none of this matters. None of the conversations that we have right now matter. Just how none of the training that you do in here matters unless it shows up on the field. None of these conversations matter until you apply it to your daily life, okay? Until you apply it to your routines. Until you apply it to the player that you are, the person that you are, okay? You have to bring this to the field and to your training. Not just today, this week, or this month, but from here on out. You need to don't worry about that motivation. You need to stay committed to the plan that you've developed so that you're doing things on purpose, with purpose. Everything has a plan. Everything has a reason, right? That allows you to stay locked in a little bit better. Right? With that, I want you to show up because of that purpose. You know the plan, you know the reasoning behind everything that you're supposed to be doing, so show up with that purpose. Don't show up because of pressure. Don't show up just because you have to. Show up because you have purpose and you have something pulling you to do the work. Commit to those habits even when you don't feel like it. All right? I want to encourage you to make the choice, to not even give yourself the choice. Okay? This is just a non-negotiable thing that I do. If I feel great about it, I do it. If I don't want to do it, I do it anyway. All right? This is something that you know you have to do to accomplish the end goal. All right? So stay committed. Don't let your motivation adjust. Okay? An important aspect of that is remember, you've chosen this path. You sat down with your parents and said, I want to sign up to do this thing at Adapt. Right? You've sat down with your parents and said, hey, I want to play baseball. Okay? All right? You've had those conversations. You chose this path. So you have to be expected and you have to do what is required. Okay? Couple key takeaways that I want you to think about over the weekend before I see you back on Monday. Or I'll see a lot of you tomorrow too. But this idea of a telescope, a microscope, and reverse engineering the process. Okay? A telescope is thinking, okay, what does a telescope do, first of all? Makes it easy to look at things far away, right? Makes things that are far away look like they're up close. Okay? So a telescope is basically zooming out to 90 days. Okay? 90 days, 6 months, 9 months, a year, 5 years, right? Looking into the future, right? Pulling it up front, trying to connect the dots. What does a microscope do? Makes small things seem bigger, so you amplify the details, right? Your microscope goals are the small things that you're doing. Maybe something this hour, maybe something today, maybe just this week, okay? But understanding that if you have an idea of what your telescope goals are, 6 months, 9 months, a year from now, where do you want to be in life? Where do you want to be as a baseball player? Where do you want to be as a person? 5 years from now, where do you want to be as a baseball player? Where do you want to be as a person? Right? But then you work backwards into those microscope goals and say, hey, what is one thing that I can do today or this week or this hour that's going to help me go there? You're using your telescope, reverse engineering to your microscope. That makes sense? So when it comes to motivation, when it comes to commitment, when it comes to doing things on purpose with purpose, you're keeping that end goal in sight and deciding really good things that you can be doing on a daily basis right now to help you work towards that goal. Okay? With that, understand that motivation and commitment are going to be daily struggles. They aren't going to be something that you're just good at all the time, right? Motivation is going to fade, and that's when commitment, discipline, accountability, responsibility takes over. Okay? And you have to practice that. Okay? But it's important for you to understand that your purpose is going to fuel your perseverance. Okay? Those are your key takeaways to take with you over the rest of the week and the weekend. So, a little bit of homework. I know you guys don't want any more homework assignments. You're getting plenty of that at school, but these should be fun. These should be easy. I want you to think about one word that defines your purpose. Right? One word, maybe a short phrase, okay, if you can't bring it down to one word, but something short enough, but meaningful enough to you that you can repeat it regularly. Okay? I want you to remind you of what matters to you when things get difficult. Something you can say to yourself. Okay? Similar to what I was talking about with Mookie Betts when he was nervous, right? Before he made the last out of the World Series, he was telling himself, be nasty, be nasty, be nasty. Now, that's not necessarily a purpose-driven goal, but it's something that he told himself when things got difficult, right? So find something that matters to you and tell yourself exactly what you need to do, okay? Reminds you of who you want to be and how you want to be when things get hard, okay? And then what is one daily action that you can do to prove your commitment, right? I think it's important for you guys to not just prove your commitment to everyone else, but first prove it to yourself, right? Tell yourself, show yourself, prove to yourself that I can come up with an idea of something I want to do for 5.5 weeks, send it to my buddy to hold me accountable, and I can pull through for my own sake. I can do it for myself, right? I can do it for all the reasons that things matter to me. I can do it for that, right? Because if you prove it to yourself daily, it's going to be easy for everyone else to see it. Everyone else knows that guy's bought in. That guy lives his life with purpose. That guy has a goal that he's working towards. And if it's obvious to you, right, it's going to be obvious to everybody else. And going into competition, going into circumstances, going into those days where you have a bad game, it's going to be a lot easier for you to fall back on your own belief in yourself, okay, because you've proven it to yourself time and time again. And then what I like about that is then it doesn't become performative. You don't become the guy who stays late and picks everything else up just because you want the coach to notice. You do it because that's who you are. Because that's how you are, because that's your core values and who you want to be, right? You come in with energy and you do what you say you're going to do because that's how you are. You've proven it to yourself over and over again, right? Your teammates are going to see that. They're going to be able to see through whether or not it's real or not, okay? So develop that habit. Show that commitment to yourself so you can prove to yourself that I am that guy. I'm the guy who does what I say I'm going to do. I show up for myself. And by doing that, I show up for everybody else that matters to me. I show up for all those reasons, those core values, the things that matter. I show up for my why. Okay? That is all I got for you today. Thank you for taking the time to listen.
Thank you.
All right? Hopefully you feel motivated and committed. All right? The rest of the week. Beautiful. Have a good one. Let's go run.